What's up, Comics Versers? You're here at C2E2 with Mark Hassenfratz. Joining me today is one of my personal favorite artists, Scotty Young. Scotty, how's your con going so far?
It's going fantastic, man. C2E2 is such a good show, such awesome fans, and such a great city, so it's going great.
When did you know you wanted to get into comics?
Oh, wow. I mean, as a job, probably not till like the end of high school or somewhere around there, or right after high school. Up until then, I just liked to draw. I read Mad Magazine and Archie and things like that. So for me, drawing was just fun. A lot of people always say like they knew they wanted to be blank for a living when they were 5, but I was like, when I was 5, I just liked to play. So I didn't really think about jobs until I was older.
So professionally, what was it like the first time you sat down to do a comic?
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. You say yes to the job before you know how to do the job. So I really accidentally got a comic book job and wasn't completely ready before I drew my first comic, and that was for Marvel Comics. So it was terrifying, yeah.
So a lot of your work here that we see behind you is like baby versions of famous superheroes and characters like that. So how do your children respond to this depiction of the characters?
My son Baxter says they're very cute. But I mean, they've been a part of it. You know, I did my first baby cover really when he was just turning 2. So he can't remember life where they weren't a part of his life. So they're very normal for him. He doesn't know that's not the actual version of Spider-Man. To him, that's Spider-Man.
Cool. So you've done a lot of characters over the years and loads of Marvel variants, all of which are fantastic. Which has been your favorite character to draw and why?
You know what? I think Cyclops, when I did the Little Marvels series, I thought Cyclops was the funnest to write and draw. This is that I want to see how big I can make his visor and see how many puns with the word I could come up with. So yeah, he was my funnest.
Well, that's great. So one of your other big works was a comic interpretation of The Wizard of Oz. What motivated you to turn something like that into a comic?
Really, it was Marvel and David Gabriel up in the head of sales at Marvel, who that was his brainchild. I actually turned the job down many times when they offered it to me because I was scared that if I did something like that, it would take me out of the limelight. Where in comics you think you're supposed to be doing the superhero comics. And though Oz and fantasy books are where my heart is, I still thought business-wise it was a bad move. But eventually I broke down and I said yes, and it ended up being the best decision I ever made in my life. I mean, we won 4 Eisners off that book, and it was on the New York Times bestsellers list for a year. And sales were great, and it gave me access to a brand new readership and audience, a really wide audience, and it's really it made me find the way that I like to draw the most. So it was the best decision I made.
Now, you recently finished up the first arc of your own comic called I Hate Fairyland. And in that, there's a lot of blood and gore, but also a lot of sunshine and rainbows. How do you strike that balance, and why do you think those two design elements work well together?
I think it's that juvenile side of myself that just thinks it's funny to take really cute things and beat them up. The balance just comes from, I think that Ren and Stimpy space, or that Invader Zim, which is interesting because Aaron over here draws Invader Zim and worked on the cartoon, but it's a lot of that juxtaposition. I think there's light and dark, right? I mean, we all love Star Wars. It's about the light side, the dark side.
So as an artist, technology is always developing more, and there's more and more tools for artists to use nowadays. Do you find yourself embracing that, or do you prefer to work old school?
I'm a mixture of everything. I start off, obviously I write on the computer. When I draw, I start off digitally. I do my thumbnails and kind of my rough pencils digitally. And then I print that out and I ink with ink and a brush on paper. And then I scan that back in and color digitally. So I use every tool at my disposal. So yeah, it's whatever makes the job easier and whatever makes storytelling easier, I'm up for using it.
Cool, interesting. So what was it like working with Image Comics, a more independent publisher, as opposed to something like Marvel, especially when you're doing your own project, writing and drawing it yourself?
Yeah, Image is great. I mean, I don't even know if I compare the two because, Marvel is really just, you're playing with their toys. And so the machine's there to build the brand, and you're there to be a part of that brand, where Image is really just there to facilitate you as a storyteller. So working with Image is really, the great people at Image that I work with there are more on the marketing and sales and production side, not the editorial, where Marvel's much more of an editorial driven relationship, where it's about working with them to tell the stories and protect the brand and work with the characters. So Image is fantastic because whatever I want to do, I do. I don't ask anybody. The only thing that happens is they help me market the book, they help tell people about the book, and they help proofread it to make sure that I don't sound like an idiot with my terrible typing, and make sure the book goes out presentable. But other than that, anything I want to do, that they do. So it's fantastic working with Image.
Great. Okay, so final question. What kind of stories do you like to tell, and what motivates you to tell them?
I really just like to tell stories that I'm inspired to tell. Like with Fairyland, with I Hate Fairyland, it really came from a place of, being a new dad. Like I started to develop this when I was a newer dad, and I had been in the industry for a good over 10 years at that point when I started developing it. It's like 15 now. But it's a new dad watching kids shows all the time, working on comic books all the time. So I felt like this adult trapped in this weird kid world where my house is filled with toys and bad cartoons, and my days filled with making comics for kids. So I Hate Fairyland was really driven from that kind of inspiration. And then I've got other stories that are kind of almost autobiographic that I want to put out there in the world. But a lot of it comes from just the inspirations I had as a kid, reading Mad Magazine, reading Roald Dahl books, James and the Giant Peach and BFG and books like that. So it's just a mixture of my inspirations and my life, really, where it comes from.
Cool. All right, so anything new and exciting you're working on that you want to tell the people at home?
Just I Hate Fairyland's continuing. The issue 5 wrapped up. The trade will be out in April. And after that, in June, issue 6 comes back, and it's an ongoing series. So I'm really focused on that.
For those of you watching at home, if you like this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can also go to comicsverse.com for more in-depth comics analysis and theory. And you can also check us out at social media on Tumblr, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time, thanks for watching. Have a good one.